Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison. Circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for restore, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison. Circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for restore, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole.
Welcome to our church on this foggy yet beautiful fall morning. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our guest speaker, Venerable Thubten Chodron, the founder and abbess of Sarvasti Abbey, located north of us outside Newport. I'll tell you a bit more about her later in our service. I also especially want to welcome those of you who are here for the first time or returning after an absence, as well as those of you who come often. Plus, those of you who are joining us from afar through our website. We're glad to have each of you with us, and we appreciate your unique background, beliefs, and lifestyle. Please join us after the service for coffee and conversation. Now take a moment to meet and greet those around you, and please especially welcome those who are new to our church.
Yesterday, he was in my drive at the coffee. Snakes in the extension already? No. You know what big sandy is? You know where Spokane is? You know where Suncrest is, right?
Suncrest, is that a community or is that a city?
We now turn from the informal greeting of each other to the formal beginning of our service as we light our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, the symbol of our unity and solidarity, of our openness and inclusion, of our community and individual uniqueness. May this small flame be an offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world, and a beacon of hope to those in need. And may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth is lost, and cast a shadow of reasonable doubt where it has been found. Today we begin our service with two short readings. The first is from the book Living with an Open Heart, co-written by our speaker, Venerable Thubten Chodron, and Dr. Russell Colts, who teaches at Eastern Washington University. The book is called Living with an Open Heart. Compassion requires courage. The courage to bring ourselves face to face with the difficulties of life and the powerful emotions that sometimes arise within us. It requires courage and commitment to stay, to tolerate the distress and discomfort we feel when encountering these difficulties. Compassion is anything but weakness. Compassion requires us to stay when things get tough, to tolerate the very difficult emotions that arise when we come into contact with suffering and those who experience it. Compassion is courageous. Our second reading there we have a very compassionate mom. Our second reading is adapted from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We must all learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we will perish together as fools. This is the greatest challenge of the hour. This is true of individuals. This is true of nations.
Our first hymn of the morning is number 170. We are a gentle, angry people. And you either can access the screen or the hymnal, which is the hardback hymnal. So please rise as you're willing and able.
And we are singing, singing for our lives. We are the gentle, angry
don't you? I'd like to invite all the children and those young at heart to come up to the front. The story today is The Three Questions. The book and the illustrations are by John Muth, and the story itself came from Leo Tolstoy. Oh, come on up. Wow, what a great group. Do you want to move forward a little bit? Perfect. Thank you. There was once a boy named Nikolai who sometimes felt uncertain about the right way to act. I want to be a good person, he told his friends, but I don't always know the best way to do that. If only I could find the answers to my 3 questions, Nikolai continued, then I would always know what to do. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? What is the right thing to do? Nikolai's friends considered his first question. Then Sonia, the heron, spoke. To know the best time to do things, one must plan in advance, she said. Gogol the monkey, who had been rooting through some leaves to find something good to eat, said, you will know when to do things if you watch and pay close attention. Then Pushkin the dog, who was just dozing off, rolled over and said, you can't pay attention to everything yourself. You need a pack to keep watch and help you decide when to do things. For example, Gogol, a coconut is about to fall on your head. Nikolai thought for a moment, and then he asked his second question. Who is the most important one? Those who are closest to heaven, said Sonia, circling up to the sky. Those who know how to heal the sick, said Gogol, stroking his bruised noggin. Those who make the rules, growled Pushkin. Nikolai thought some more, and then he asked the third question, what is the right thing to do? Flying, said Sonia. Having fun all the time, laughed Gogol. Fighting, barked Pushkin right away. Then the boy thought for a long while. He loved his friends. He knew they were all trying their best to help him answer his questions, but their answers didn't seem quite right. Then an idea came to him. I know, he thought. I will ask Leo the turtle. He has lived a very long time. Surely he will know the answers to the questions I'm looking for. Nikolai hiked high up into the mountains where the old turtle lived all alone. When Nikolai arrived, he found Leo digging a garden. The turtle was old and digging was hard for him. I have 3 questions and I came to ask your help, Nikolai said. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? What is the right thing to do? You're such a good audience. You're not bad yourselves up there. Leo listened carefully, but he only smiled. Then he went on with his digging. You must be tired, Nikolai said at last. Let me help you. The turtle gave him his shovel and thanked him. And because it was easier for a young boy to dig than for an old turtle, Nikolai kept on digging until the rows were completed. But just as he finished, the wind blew wildly and rain burst from darkened clouds. As they moved towards the cottage for shelter, Nikolai heard a cry for help. Running down the path, he found a panda whose leg had been injured by a fallen tree. There's the panda. Carefully, Nikolai carried her into Leo's house and made a splint for her leg with a stick of bamboo. The storm raged on, banging at the doors and windows. The panda woke up. Where am I? She said. And where is my child? The boy ran out of the cottage and down the path. The roar of the storm was deafening. Pushing against the howling wind and drenching rain, he ran farther into the forest. There he found the panda's child, cold and shivering on the ground. The little panda was wet and scared, but alive. Nikolai carried her inside and made her warm and dry, and then he laid her in her mother's arms. Leo smiled when he saw what the boy had done. The next morning the sun was warm, birds sang, and all was well within the world. The panda's leg was healing nicely, and she thanked Nikolai for saving her and her baby from the storm. At that moment, Sonia, Gogol, and Pushkin arrived to make sure everyone was all right. Nikolai felt great peace within himself. He had wonderful friends, and he had saved the panda and her child, but he also felt disappointed. He still had not found the answer to his 3 questions. The old turtle looked at the boy. "But your questions have been answered," he said. "They have?" asked Nikolai. When you found the injured panda, the most important time was the time you spent mending her leg and saving her child. The most important ones were the panda and her baby, and the most important thing to do was to make them safe. Remember then that there is only one important time, and that time is now. The most important one is always the one you are with, and the most important thing is to do good for the one who is standing at your side. For these, my dear boy, are the answers to what is most important in the world. And this is why we are here. You were a beautiful audience. Thank you so much. Shall we sing our children out?
We will now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which sustains this community and our mission to the larger world.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know
The human voice together in harmony as you have gifted us this morning is just one of the most beautiful things. Thank you so much. Each time we gather as a congregation, there are always those who are with us in our minds and hearts and who we want to wrap in our love and care. We kindle a candle of joy this morning for our guest, Venerable Thubten Chodron, who yesterday celebrated 40 years from her ordination as a Tibetan Buddhist nun. We kindle another candle for those who are homeless, for as our weather turns cold, they are also suffering from the cold. Let us share a moment in silence, embracing those others who are here in our hearts this morning. You are welcome to say their names aloud as you are willing.
John and Carol.
Carol's mother. Those named aloud and those remembered in the silence we hold in our community of compassion. Now, take a moment to get comfortable. Close your eyes if you wish, and take several deep breaths. Our meditation this morning will be a bit different, more of a guided meditation, with my reading and then pausing several different times. This meditation is taken from the book Working with Anger by Venerable Thubten Chodron. A meditation on love. We begin by wishing ourselves to be well and happy. Not in a selfish way, but in a way that respects and cares for ourselves as one of many sentient beings. Now we gradually spread this wishing, this well-wishing, to our friends and family. We think, feel, and imagine. May my friends and my family have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. Next, we generate the same feelings of well-wishing for people we don't know all those whose work in society contributes to our happiness, from those who pick up our garbage or build our roads, to those who teach in our public schools or staff our hospitals and nursing homes. This next one is harder, perhaps very much harder. We wish all those who have harmed us, those whom we fear or feel threatened by, and those of whom we disapprove, to have happiness and its causes. At first, our mind may be resistant to this, but if we remember that these people have acted in these ways because they have been in pain or confused, then we can see that wishing them to be happy is wishing for the causes of their harmful behavior to be alleviated. This does not mean, for instance, that we wish for alcoholics to have an ample supply of liquor. Rather, we wish them to have a peaceful mind and self-confidence so that they no longer see alcohol as a way to deal with their pain. Finally, we spread this loving feeling to all sentient beings, including animals and insects. Our reading this morning is taken from the book Working with Anger by Venerable Thubten Chodron. Is anger a positive or necessary motivator for social change? Good question, don't you think? Here's Venerable's answer. Although anger may energize us to prevent or correct social injustice, it cannot be counted as a positive motivator for social change because it renders our minds like the minds of those whom we oppose. As a student, I saw this quite clearly at a Vietnam War protest where another student picked up a stone and threw it at the ROTC building. Although I was not yet a Buddhist, I recoiled at this person's action. He had become just like the people against whom we were protesting. No matter what the cause, when we hate our oppressors or the oppressors, our mind becomes like theirs. Both they and we are angry. Both of us consider our position right and the other wrong. Both of us have a hard time listening to the needs and interests of the other party. Both of us think it is the other who should change. When we approach conflict with such self-righteous indignation, communication, cooperation, and the willingness to compromise break down. Is anger the only motivation that can energize us to correct harmful situations? According to Buddhism, it is not. Compassion, the wish for others to be free from difficulties and confusion, is not only a more powerful motivator, but also one that is more balanced, more realistic, and more effective than anger. Although we may initially react in anger to injustice, we can transform our attitude to a more compassionate one before we take action. We sometimes confuse compassion with passivity, sentimentality, or Pollyanna idealism. From the Buddhist perspective, it is none of these. Compassion is an attitude which realizes that others wish to be happy and to avoid difficulties is just as intense and worthy of respect as our own. Others may be confused and use harmful methods in their endeavor to be happy. That has to be remedied. In 1989, a journalist asked His Holiness the Dalai Lama, after the massive destruction that Chinese Communist government has wreaked on your country and your people, why aren't you angry? How can you tell the Tibetan people to have compassion for their oppressors? His Holiness responded, if I got angry, what good would it do? If I were angry, then I wouldn't be able to sleep at night or eat my meals peacefully. I'd get ulcers and my health would deteriorate. My anger couldn't change what has happened in the past or improve the future. So what use would it be? However, with compassion, we Tibetans can act to improve our situation.
As we travel
Venerable Thubten Chodron is an author, teacher, and the founder and abbess of Sravasti Abbey outside Newport, which is one of the first Tibetan Buddhist training monasteries for Western nuns and monks in the U.S. Ordained as a Tibetan Buddhist nun in 1977, she has studied extensively with His Holiness the Dalai Lama and other Tibetan teachers. Yesterday, I was privileged to be present at Sravasti Abbey as Venerable was celebrated for her 40 years as a nun and her 40 years as a force for compassion and justice in our world. And I'd like to share with you a little bit of the letter that our minister, Todd Eckloff, wrote to Venerable. On behalf of the entire membership at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, I wish to congratulate you on 40 years of making justice through compassion. He went on to say, I thank you for your love and leadership in the world and for the blessing of partnership between our two faith communities. He closed by saying he hoped that we would have many more years of working together to make our world a more just and more compassionate place. So we are so happy to have you again in our pulpit. Thank you for joining us.
So I was going to comment again on how wonderful it was to have the choir, and they all walked out. But it's the first time I've spoken here when we've had the choir, and it's wonderful. Yeah. And I also want to express some gratitude for Reverend Todd's letter. When Trump's first immigration ban came out, my first thought was, we've got to call Reverend Todd and get together and say something about this. And I think what happened is some of our nuns and Todd and some of the people from the congregation here went down to Kathy McMorris's office together to speak with her, and they had some written material. And of course she wasn't there, and her office was closed. Yes, just coincidentally, but we tried, and I think it did make an impact, people saying things like that. And so when he wrote in the letter about, continued relationship between our two congregations, yes, I'm all for that, because I've really respected what UU has done in terms of practicing what you believe and stepping out and working in society. It's quite wonderful. So, I wanted to start this with the same citation that I started the previous one, but I'll probably go in a different direction, because I'm supposed to be talking about finding hope in social action. Yeah. So we have a whole genre of teachings in Tibetan Buddhism called thought training teachings or mind training teachings, where we deliberately cultivate and train our mind to think in a certain way. Because if we just let random thoughts come, the way they are. Our mind's pretty chaotic. So we're really trying, especially when faced with difficult situations, to train our mind in a certain way of working with them and dealing with them. So the verse reads, when the environment and sentient beings are filled with negativities, transform these bad circumstances into the path to awakening. Okay, so it doesn't say when the environment and sentient beings are filled with negativities, vent your anger at them and tell them that they've got to do it differently. Yeah, that's not what the verse said. It says, transform the bad circumstances into the path to awakening. So this is a real challenge for us. And although we all want happiness, and no suffering, part of the situation of being alive and having the kind of bodies we do and the minds that we do is that pain and misery come unrequested. We work very hard to try and have happiness and to what I call line up all of our duckies. Remember when you were a kid and you had the little yellow plastic duckies and you want to line them all up in the bathtub and control everything so it comes out the way you want. So in our lives, we're always trying to line up our duckies and make everybody do what we want them to do and everything be orderly and predictable. And what are we living in? So things are not orderly and predictable, and we cannot control everything. In fact, the only thing we ever have any chance of controlling is our own thoughts, our own feelings, and sometimes, most of the time, in fact, we can't even manage those. So what this verse is telling us is, to affect social change, we have to get our own house in order. Like the story that she quoted from however many years ago that was when we protested the Vietnam War, when the person next to me threw the stone, and, it's like, we've got to clean up what's in here, otherwise we become exactly like the people that we're opposing, And I've always thought, you could have a conference of all the fundamentalists together in one place. Are the fundamentalist ISIS, the white racists, the fundamentalist vegetarians, the fundamentalist vegans, those are the ones, you're already vegetarian, and then they say, why aren't you vegan? So get all those people together, they all think alike. They all think alike. My cause is right, my cause is just, and you've got to change. It's just what their cause is and who they're blaming is different, but the way of thinking is exactly the same. So what this verse is saying is, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. We have to approach these things in a completely different way. And that's where compassion comes in, And as she said there, compassion is not for wimps. Okay? So if you're a wimp, forget it. People think, compassion, you roll over on your tummy, you say, yes, everything's right. My husband beat me last night. He beat me the night before. He's going to beat me tonight. It's all okay. I have so much compassion for him. No, that's not okay. And you don't stay in a situation like that. That's not compassion, that's stupidity. We have to discriminate between the two of them. But compassion means stepping out and seeing the whole global situation, which has so many, many, many factors. And we always like to pick one factor, which usually happens to be the other person, and make it all their responsibility. Although once in a while, when things go wrong, we pick out another, again, one factor, and blame everything, and that happens to be ourselves. So, we're really into this blaming mode, and I think blame is we need to eliminate the word, we need to eliminate the whole thing, because it's not an issue of blame. It's an issue of seeing the multiple factors at work and doing something about the factors that we have the capability of doing something about. Yeah. What we see in the news, is always, Mueller is going to release, he's going to indict somebody now. Yeah, in the whole Trump-Russia thing. And so what does Sarah say? Oh, it's the Dems who did it. Yeah, and it's like everybody's just blaming everybody else, but the world doesn't get better that way. Yeah, and this is the same in the world, and it's the same in our families. Yeah, blaming your family member is not going to change anything. Yeah, so it all comes to opening ourselves. Yeah. And seeing that it's not one factor, it's many factors coming from many directions. Many things are going on here. Okay? And if you change one factor, depending on what that factor is, many things in the puzzle can change because they all can't remain the same. They're all existing dependent on each other. Yeah. At the celebration yesterday, the Coeur d'Alene Dharma Friends did a little skit. Yeah. And because I'm always talking about, not always, but often talking about, got to keep myself truthful, not exaggerate, about one way I deal with what's happening in the world today is in my spiritual practice. We do a lot of bowing. Yeah, we visualize the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and different holy beings in front of us, and we bow. And so when I do this practice, I imagine everybody around me. They say to have your mother on your left and your father on your right. During the pre-election years, I had Hillary and Donnie. Yeah. And then they say to put the people that you have problem with in front of you, between you and the Buddha. So to look at the Buddha, to look at the holy object, you have to first look at all the people you can't stand. And all the people you judge, and all the people you're prejudiced against. You have to look at them. You can't put them at the back of the thing. So, Donnie's already here. I have Jeffy. I have Paul. I have Mitch. They're all there. And we're all bowing to the Buddha together. Can you imagine that? Yeah. Ted Cruz bowing to the Buddha. But this is how, you've got, they say if you can't imagine it, you can never make it happen. Yeah? So this is one way I have of opening my heart towards all these people. Instead of putting them in a box, which it is certainly easy to do, with a big label on it, and throw them out the window, is to look and see here's a bunch of individuals who are suffering, and in their suffering, they're enacting harm on others because in their confusion, they're thinking that what they're doing is going to alleviate their own suffering. So whether these people are our U.S. Congress or are the people in the cabinet or our dear Prez, or whether they're the people who are down in Airway Heights, locked in the prison there, everybody is trying to be happy. And this is the same for us. We all want to be happy. We don't want suffering. We're all the same in that respect. Yeah. And open our hearts to that and see people in this way. And so when I do my bowing practice, and they're all bowing with me, it helps me think, wow, these people are not just, what I'm seeing or reading about in the news. They are whole individuals with many different sides of themselves. Yeah, and I've got to see the many different sides. And when they express their pain, I've got to have empathy for their pain. And instead of sitting there and going, you shouldn't be painful because you're wrong. You shouldn't think like that. Look, you should practice thought training like me. You have some bad conditions. Say to the white racist, you have some bad conditions. You practice thought training and change your mind. Yeah. You have compassion for everybody else. Yeah. That's really going to work well with them, isn't it? Yeah. They're going to go, yeah. Somebody in the break time between talks was asking me, how do you deal with these people? And I said, because she was saying, I want to sit down and explain all the logical reasons to them about why what they're saying and doing is wrong. And in this discussion we were having, I said, they're not interested in reasons. Yeah, they're not interested in reasoning. They're hurting inside. And they're needing something and they're wanting something that they probably don't even know themselves what they're actually needing and wanting. But the pain is coming out as anger and hatred. Because very often when we're in pain, we feel helpless. Nobody likes to feel helpless. What do we do when we feel helpless? We get angry and we blame, because that gives us a big surge in our adrenaline. And then we feel powerful. But it's a fake kind of power. It's totally fake. And these people are afraid. And they're miserable. And it's hard for us to see that because they're expressing an angry face. But of course, we come back to them with an angry face. So there's going to be a whole lot of communication, right? Wrong. Yeah. So we're going to have to really talk and dialogue and see what's going on. Yeah. What are they afraid of? Yeah. I have some ideas, but my ideas don't count. It's listening to them, what they're saying. And in the discussion I had in the break time, she was saying, so you just let them talk? Our role is to listen, so we just let them talk and listen. And I say, no, that's not it. Because what are they going to talk about? They're going to spew all their hate. When you talk, you have to guide the conversation. And you have to guide it to what are you feeling and what are you needing and what are the important points in this for you? And get them to talk on another level. Yeah, not the ideological level, not the what we should do level. But what's feeding this? Yeah. Because we know, even in our own personal lives, when we're unhappy, we say and do all sorts of things that we later regret. But how often do we stop and ask ourselves, what am I feeling and what am I needing? And what am I really trying to say when I get angry? Yeah, what am I really trying to say with my anger? Often, what we're trying to say when we're angry is, I'm lonely, I feel left out, I want to belong, I want to be appreciated. But we aren't in touch with ourselves, so that's not what we say. we say, how come you're doing this and you're wrong? And it's on a personal level. That's what happened in Charlottesville. That's what's, happening with North Korea. And that way just doesn't work at all, So to be able to look beneath and what's really motivating somebody's actions and help them in our conversations to get in touch with that and to be able to verbalize it. And then to offer them some empathy. Because very often when we're in pain, just knowing somebody else understands us and empathizes with our pain, that already makes us more peaceful, doesn't it? Yeah. So the same way, if we can offer that to somebody else who's not peaceful, to offer some understanding. But understanding, it doesn't mean we agree. It means we understand. Those are two different things. Yeah. But I think that kind of way of having dialogue and really listening to what's going on with others and listening to ourselves. Yeah. Why do we get so upset? Yeah. What is it that we're valuing? Like when you listen to Sarah speak, and it's like, huh? Or you read Donnie's latest tweets. What's this guy saying, And to think, what is really what's motivating them, but why do I get so upset by it? Yeah. Well, one reason is I value honesty. Yeah. And I need honesty, and I don't feel that honesty's being there. But does that mean I have to be angry at the other people? No. They value honesty too. Then the things that I think, the factors I can control, I have to be honest about those too. And not just say my side's right and your side's wrong. Okay. Some kind of, I guess they call it healing, So I think that's one way to transform adversity into the path, yeah, and to help us generate more compassion for ourselves and for all the other people that we're in this big mess together with. Because we're all in it together, aren't we? Okay.
Please rise as you're willing and able to sing our closing hymn of the day. It's number 121, We'll Build the Land, and you can access either the screen or your hardback hymnal, 121.
Wrong.
For those of you who would like to hear more or learn more about what you've heard this morning, I want to remind you that every Monday night in our chapel from 6:30 to 8 is a Tibetan Buddhist meditation class taught by nuns from Sravasti Abbey. We are so pleased this is our 10th year that they have given us the gift of their teachings. But I have to warn you, it stops on December 11th is the last Monday night, and they go into, get this, a 3-month silent retreat. So if you don't catch us until December 11th, look for us in the spring. Our closing words were written by the Unitarian Universalist minister, Frederick Gillis. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us now and always. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and Shalom.